Okay, so this is the 5th word that we're looking at. If you're new to this, please start at number 1, because I'm kind of build to introduce new concepts. So this word you have stored, you'll say inquiry without even thinking about it. You could spell it correctly, etc. If you were a child and you didn't have this stored in your brain word bank, and we just said, just give us the sounds, duck hands the sounds, you go ɪnkwaɪəri, inquiry. And you probably question that schwa. Let me just show you what I mean. You would go inquiry. Now, whether you use the schwa or not would depend on how you say it or how the person you're with says it. So if you said inquiry, it's an inquiry into whatever, then that schwa is quite pronounced, isn't it? Inquiry. And actually, if we look at the phonetic symbols, inquiry. I've written it just here like because if you're not used to the phonetic symbols, often we use letters to kind of show people what it means, but it's so impractical because of our English orthography. So you would think inquiry. So the phonetic symbols, inquiry, let me just show those. Inquiry. So that schwa there, it's a sort of sound. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this today, other than the fact that some teachers were doing this the other day in Australia, thinking about so what is the mapping? Now, that makes sense to you, doesn't it? Inquiry. But there is actually a little schwa just there. Inquiry. But in this word, and this is when I'm talking about the schwa being swallowed or not, what I mean is the schwa, it's still showing for this, because these phonetic symbols just represent the speech sounds. So the speech sounds, that's the universal spelling code, if you like. It's the universal way of thinking about speech sounds that we have as a consistent universal code, regardless of your accents. So the phonetic symbols are showing that it should be and when you play them, you can see those phonetic symbols, can't you? Inquiry. But actually, some of you, other than the fact that you're probably going, hold on, in my brain, because of my orthographic interference, I was thinking that was going to be an eh, but it's inquiry, isn't it? But other than that, which is probably the one that's your brain sort of made you a bit confused, because as a skilled reader, you have that word stored. But this is the part that to me is the most interesting, because some people say, but I say inquiry. Some people say, I say inquiry. The phonetic symbols are saying input with a schwa, but actually, I probably say inquiry. But there is, if you say to go from the word I to the I sound, not the I letter name, there is a little schwa just there. But this is what's so interesting, because here, when I'm working with the children, we would say, actually, that schwa, that sound is actually swallowed here by this Now, let me give you a better example of what we would sort of do with the children to show that difference that's sort of more pronounced. Because if you say inquiry, that it is really, really difficult to hear that schwa just there, really difficult. That's why it was a bit of a shock for the teachers who are exploring to see that there's a schwa, symbol there. It's much easier to think about it here. Like if you were to duck hand kettle, or kettle. Now, if you see it that there, often it means it's so, in with that all sound. But here we've got all kettle. So we've got the same number of sounds as petal, kettle, petal. The only change is that this has a k and this has a p. So if we've got kettle, we've got Kettle. And if we've got petal, we've got petal. But because you are a skilled reader, that orthographic interference plays up again. So that you know, you look at that and you think, oh, okay. And here you can understand, because this one has got, the schwa has got its own grapheme there, hasn't it? So here we've got kettle. Here we've got petal. So it's the same sounds other than the first one, but here there's no separate grapheme that maps with that schwa, and here there is. So that's when I'm talking about the schwa being swallowed. The sound is still there. The schwa is still there. It's there in kettle, pet, but it's swallowed the grapheme. The sound picture is swallowed. So here it's got its own and here it doesn't. The children, when they're playing it, absolutely fine going kettle. Oh, sorry. See, my brain just then, because I am a skilled reader, I faced that orthographic interference there because I just went straight to k-et and didn't do that schwa, even though I know it's there. Kettle, but the sound pick for the schwa is swallowed up by the whereas petal, that schwa has the a as the picture for the sound. So when I'm working with children, I always talk about the fact that some words, the speech sound king was a little bit annoyed with the schwa, and so said, do you know what, in this word you're not going to have your own sound pick. And then when he was in a good mood with the schwa, he said, whilst they were mapping the words, said, this word, I'm not in a bad mood with you today, so you can have your own schwa. I tend to talk stories with children about the speech sound king and, speech sound cloudland and how it was all created, because it just makes more sense and it's more interesting to children. So if we go back to inquiry, you would think, what's new for me? It might have been that E for the I, but if you've been looking at the words so far, it shouldn't be, because we've already looked at the E as the picture for I. The word was repeat. See you again tomorrow.